we have a problem here, a very big problem. Me and Dylan have been arguing, and I've been trying to cage this beast, Dylan the beast, from coming out and hitting me with these arguments. But I don't know, it's not working, so we decided to do a video on it. One world governments, or one world government, to be more precise. I was saying that there's positives and negatives to it, although I wouldn't choose to have one if I had the choice. And Dylan got angry, a little bit angry about it. So, go, say what you gonna say.
Now, firstly, I'm going to say I understand that there is.
Your valued
Firstly,
opinion.
I understand there is positives and negatives to a one world government. However, I think that.
You said there's no positives before. Before you said.
The reason I reckon there's no positives is because the negatives are that strong, they'll dominate the positives, right? Because by creating a one world government, right, you are essentially giving one group of people all the power to 7 billion people.
Not if the definition of a government changes.
Yeah, but it's not going to change, mate. Is what I'm saying. In order for a one world government to occur, the definition of the government isn't going to change. It's going to be a controlling government. That's how a one world government's going to happen. And now, I'm going to bring in a bit of politics now. With Trump being elected now, I reckon we're even further from a one world government, which is kind of a good thing. I'm not saying that Trump is the best thing to ever happen, or I'm not saying I agree with what Trump's doing or disagree or whatever. But what I'm saying is by what Trump is doing, he's bringing us further from a one world government, which I am glad about in that respect. Right?
Okay, look, I think if humans, the humans that are ruling, not ruling, you know what I mean. I don't really want to sound like an ass here, but I'm just gonna go ahead and say if the people who are in the government wake up to themselves and actually focus on creating peace throughout the world and actually focus on erasing poverty to an extent, so that everyone has food and water and shelter at the least, and then everything else is like, yeah, this is gonna go into a whole other argument here. And everything else is dependent on how much you work for the necessities are there no matter what. If the governments of the world started doing that, then there would be no need for a one world government. But I believe that because the governments aren't doing that, there needs to be a change. And I think a one world government is a possibility. I do understand it is a massive risk. Like if you have the wrong people go up. Okay, it's more than a massive risk. If you have the wrong people go up, it's screwed. Like the whole world is screwed.
Because if you look at the people, because the thing is, there is people that want a one world government, right? 100% there's people that want a one world government, and these are the people which are in the most power, right? They want a one world government to have even more power. Think about it, right? Let's say someone's got control over a nation. What's the one way that they can get more control? Have control over more nations and more people, right? So by having a one world government, you're giving these people that thrive on power and control.
Okay, wait, hang on a sec. Remember what I said before about how the definition of a government needs to change? If there's a one world government, hang on, just let me say what I was saying. If there's a one world government, we can't keep going on, we can't have the governments doing the same things that they're doing. Maybe we could still have like smaller governments in different states, but instead of looking as a government that it controls a nation and is responsible for its nation, maybe we should look at it as it's more like a representative of the nation, rather than responsible for the nation and.
But the thing is,
like technically has power over it. State sovereignty. The notion of state sovereignty says that.
Doesn't work currently either, because unfortunately people need to be controlled. If you give a whole population power, it's just going to turn into more like it'll literally split itself up into countries within the people. Like unfortunately.
No, hang on. Not if everyone's getting food, water, and shelter, and it's not going to go. Yes.
Different views.
Yes.
People have different views, Luca. That's the thing I'm trying to get across.
The views won't matter.
Why do you think people disagree on politics?
Okay.
And people go
crazy over the views won't.
Because it's different people's opinions. People go crazy over it. All right. Unfortunately, if you give the power to the people, individual people will then.
No, take the power away. Forget about the power. Forget about the politics. Focus on. Hang on. Focus on the government.
You can't take power away. You
take politics away.
You take politics away. What you're saying now is communism, and communism hasn't worked either. But then again,
How's that communism? Isn't communism
is
sharing
socialist as well.
sharing
Exactly.
resources?
But if you don't have any power or anything like that, or any control, it does become even for everyone. Otherwise, then there is power, is what I'm trying to get at.
Well, not really, because it's not talking about having no power through resources. That's through resources. Some people might have more resources than others depending on how they work. I'm talking about
But then
political
that's still
power.
power,
I'm
though.
talking about the power to bind
If someone has
people.
more resources,
There has to
it
be.
leads to more power, is what I'm saying. If you've got more resources than someone,
Okay.
that's being more powerful than someone. It's like someone with billions
Okay.
of dollars over someone with hundreds of dollars. They've got more power over you. They can afford more things.
This is like a utopia, but I think that if there were like 5 laws, or I don't know, like 10 laws, like something like that, basic things that everybody can agree on, like you cannot kill, you cannot steal, like stuff like that, like basic laws like that. Take away all the complicated, or keep the complicated shit. I don't know. But what I'm saying is, we need to like cut it down a lot. That's what I think. I don't like the way it is right now, and I think that we need to change something. And I mean, the one world government is the only thing I can think of. There's nothing else I can think of that's different to what it is right now.
The one way it can be different to what it is right now is go further away from one world government. Become more.
But then there's just going to be more
There doesn't have
war.
to be war. All I'm
What do you
saying is
mean,
become
no?
more.
But there will be, because
No,
people like Trump go
because what
up.
I'm saying is people need to be more isolated within their own countries. I'm not saying you can't travel places. I'm not saying that you can't communicate with other countries. What I'm saying is that people, individual countries need to thrive within their own environment before they can go somewhere else.
Okay,
The
listen.
thing is, right? Why do you think Australia? Why do you think industry within Australia is in the shit? Right? Because we've got a free trade agreement. No other countries are doing free trade. Why do you think China is booming? Because they can produce hundreds of what we can when we can only produce one. That's the issue. That's why all these things like jobs going offshore. If every country becomes efficient within their own environment, then you can look past. You can look further. But firstly, you can't just automatically go to a one world government and everything becomes stable again. That creates even more issues. Is what I'm saying. Because then what you're trying to do is by creating a one world government, you've got to create one currency. What happens then in terms of every country is pretty much in debt. Every country's got their own currency. Everything's got its own individual value. By creating a one world government,
Why do you have to create one currency?
what's the point of a one world government then? Some other countries are going to benefit more than others. Is what
Okay,
I'm saying.
hang on.
If you don't create one currency,
You
then what happens
combine
is then
you combine the political borders, right? But it doesn't mean that you have to take away. It doesn't mean you have to take away
that's
culture,
not culture.
or like whatever. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean you have to take away culture or the economics of each particular country. Yes, it'll be a one world government, but what I don't think I'm meaning a one world government, even though I'm saying that. What I'm trying to get at is we need that's it. That's what I'm trying to get. Okay, we need a unified system, right? Instead of just having separate systems across the world, something that works together, completely
That's what the
globalized
United Nations
system.
is for. But that's corrupt as fuck.
But it doesn't do shit. It
Because
doesn't
they
do
created something
shit.
that was meant to be a unified system, but it's corrupt as fuck. That's what I'm saying.
No, hang on. You know why they can't do shit, right? Do you know what state sovereignty is?
No.
Okay, so it's the notion that trying to get my legal studies here from school. It's the notion that a state has a power to do whatever it wants within its state, and other states can't interfere in that. However, there's a new thing that's come out called the responsibility to protect, and that's basically a notion that the United Nations can send out their peace forces or whatever, the UN peace forces, to countries if they're not protecting or fulfilling their responsibility to protect the people of their nation. So, for example, like genocides in Rwanda and stuff, that all screwed up because no one got involved because they didn't want to go into their border because it was someone else's border, right? If that can change, if that system can unify so that they have power to prevent war and things like that, then I think everything else is fine. Law is fine.
With that law, with that peace law, right? They have the power to interfere when there might not be an issue. Do you understand?
Yes, that's correct. But that's why you have to make the law like that precise. Like, you can't open it for interpretation. You know what I mean? So
you're making it too precise. So then, if there is an issue that needs to be addressed, you can't address it.
Not really.
Yes.
Not really.
But by
Okay,
making too
no,
many
okay.
laws,
You could say something like, if there's, and you could make an agreement of it, right, and get all the countries to agree to it. So, for example, I don't think they would, but you could do something like, in terms of genocide, or war crimes, or what was the other one? Like things like that, like war crimes, genocide, big things like that, they can interfere. Anything less than that, they cannot interfere
yeah,
no
but
matter
what if
what.
certain things need intervention?
Oh, that's really the response. That's already there. But maybe they. Oh wait, what'd you
What I'm
say?
saying is that regardless of what you put in place, a one world government doesn't help anyone but the people that are running the government.
It depends who's running it.
There's only certain people that are going to be running it. They're not going to choose some random guy off the street that's got all the right ideas. They're going to choose the person with the most power. And a matter of fact, they're not going to choose that person. That person's going to demand that position. Is what I'm saying. It's what there is. If you look into it, there's people called globalists, and they're people with a lot of money and a lot of power, right? And it's essentially like a secret society, right? Globalists are people which believe in a one world government. All these people that believe in a one world government, right? They are the only reason they believe in a one world government is to get all people under their control, so then they can manipulate things how they want. And they believe that all these people that are globalists believe that they're a runaway society. They believe the rest of humanity is doomed, and they are the next level above everyone else. In terms of like they're on a different plane of dimension and shit like that. Like they literally believe that they're on a different level of existence to the rest of the humans. But you know who those people are? They're the billionaires, is what I'm saying. And they're the people that if a one world government does happen, will end up taking over. And that's why I say, that's what I'm.
You got a
And the thing
point.
is as well, a lot of those people in those high positions are actually pedophiles as well. Funny enough, because they have a certain belief that what they do is by by doing what they do with that regard, they're like taking their energy or some stupid like weird shit like that, like some demonic ritual type stuff, right?
This is like
It
Illuminati
essentially is.
shit. No, I get your point. Like, if there was a one world government, then the people who have the power already would just take
Exactly.
advantage of it.
And the thing is,
Which is true. But that doesn't change my point that something needs
well,
to
yeah, but that's what I'm
change.
saying. You need to go further away from one world government because the further
I
why
disagree with that.
the further away you go from one world government, the further the less control that they have as a group, right?
Hey, that's what it
What are you
used to be
talking
like.
about?
And there was fucking World War One. That's what the world used to be like. It was okay. Right now, you can agree that the world's more globalized than
Yeah,
it's ever
which is
been. Yeah.
I see positives and
Yeah.
negatives, but like if it goes further than what it is now, it's very negative. Right, I'm gonna put that out there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. So let's say like right now it's pretty globalized. It's closer to one world government. Ages ago, like when I talk ages ago, I mean like 20th century, early 20th century, like even mid 20th century when the war, like World War Two was happening. It was like much further away from anything close to a globalized world or a one world economy, and that's like partially what allowed for the wars. Like in a world today where there's the UN and where there's I mean, I know the UN's not very effective in a lot of circumstances, but where there's a globalized world like it is today, war is much like over like a world war is much less possible. And I think that if the world goes away, you're saying like going back, that'd create even more problems because it'd create patriotism because people in their own countries will be like, well, my country's better than yours, like you
There's
know what I
people like
mean,
that.
and it end up having
There's
different
always gonna
views.
be people like that.
Yeah, but it's not
But
fucking crazy
well,
though.
it is.
Yes, but it's not crazy.
There's radicals in every
Not really.
environment. That is wrong too.
Yes. But when you like close it down like that, a lot of people become radical, not just some people. Like right now, it's different because of the globalized economy.
But you do realize, but
It's
because of
much
this more
different. Like
globalized economy, right? Well, then how do you explain like wars that are still going on now, even though we're a more globalized economy?
Yeah, it's true. Something needs to change, but like they're minor
They're
wars.
not
It's not a
minor
world
wars, mate.
war.
There's been pretty much just as many deaths as World War Ones and World War
That's a
Twos.
bad thing for me to say. That's a bad thing for me to say. What I mean is the entire world
But if
isn't
the same amount of
at
people,
war with
if
each
there's
other.
still similar amounts of people dying, regardless of whether it's a world war or not, it's still an issue.
Yeah, then it's just as bad, right?
Is what I'm saying is as well. But if you do research into the current wars that are happening, those wars were done.
I don't know
The
much
wars
about
were
them.
essentially created for government purposes. The terror attacks were allowed to occur. I'm going out on a limb here. I'm sticking my whole arm and leg out. The terrorist attacks, if you look into it, 9/11, I believe 9/11 was done by the government, right? 9/11 was done by the government. It might have been a terrorist
I
attack,
think.
but it was allowed to happen by the government in order to create a war in Afghanistan, which had no other reason to occur.
In order to
Exactly.
justify a war, you mean? Yeah, okay. Well, I pretty much think that
But
too.
again, what I'm
But
saying is
like,
that
okay,
that's these globalists that, if you look at the Rothschilds, right, they've got I think $500 trillion net worth, right? Essentially, they own all the banks within pretty much every country in the world except about five. They own all the banks, right? Essentially, they have all the economic power in the world. The only countries where they don't have that power is where the wars are still going on now. So there's a conspiracy that these wars were created in order to obtain Western control of those countries, right? And essentially take control of them as well in terms of the economic control of those countries. It
it's
is.
very possible.
And
On
if you
this
think someone
topic,
with $500 trillion net worth, it's very within their capabilities to do that. Mate, they could, with that net worth, they could pay off the American debt as a nation. Yeah,
yes,
but they
amazing.
wouldn't obviously, but because they're the ones that are keeping them in debt.
What do you think about anarchy?
Again, it's another good sounds okay in theory, but really shit in practice. Because again, what like the problem is leaders are created. Like if I'm going to give you a hypothetical here. If you have a group of people which are just as stupid as each other, they're all like generally just low intelligence idiots, right? I'm just saying as like a hypothetical, right? But then you have one person in that
Yeah.
group that's just as stupid as everyone else, but he's got more confidence than the others. He'll become the leader, right? He knows just as much as everyone else, but he acts more confident about it, and he talks more confidently, and whatever, and he'll be the leader of that group. What I'm
Okay,
saying
so what's your
is,
point?
regardless of, even if you remove government, there's going to be one person that's got the most power, that's got the most money, that's got the most confidence, that's got something that makes them a leader, whether it's within their own community or as a whole. So, essentially, you're always going to have a leader, you're always going to have people in charge, but it's just having the right people in those positions. I think that's the real
What
difference.
if you I've been thinking about this lately. I've been thinking about this lately. What if you changed human nature, or you changed the the idea that we have about everything through education? Like just hypothetically, if you could
Yeah, but
literally change
again, like what I
education.
told you before, is education. The education system that is currently put in place is put in place to make people smart enough, but not too smart. I think I told you that.
Yeah,
It's
I
put in
agree with
place
that
to
as
make you
well.
smart to the point where you can function normally. You can understand basic concepts of the world, but not too smart, where you start to question everything and you start to really like unlock your potential, right? And that's the way that the education system has been created. Now, but
So
what
I'm
I'm
saying, what
saying
if
is,
it
it's been
changed?
created that way for a reason. It's not just coincidence that it happened that way, and it hasn't been changed for a reason. It's not coincidence that they haven't changed it.
You think that it'd be a bad thing if
No,
people
I'm
got
not
to that
saying it'd be a
level?
great thing, but I'm saying the people in power don't want that. is what I'm getting at.
So then maybe if there's a way to make everyone aware of
The thing
it,
is, if
and
it's
then
like that, it's like that. If you read 1984, you'll understand what I'm getting at. It's that futile hope that regardless of how much you are believable, regardless of how many facts you have on your side, people won't go against that idea.
the established system.
You know what I mean? They'll think, well, what's wrong with the education system? They'll go, yeah, there's issues with it, but it's it's good. It's teaching our kids, blah blah blah. But you think, hang on, there could be so much more that they're learning about. But hang on, what's wrong? You know what I mean? Like, regardless of what you say to people, they don't believe you because you're just someone saying that. Although you've got facts and
What if you could prove it by doing it, by putting it in action, by starting a school, by getting a certain number of kids there, and then showing off those kids and what they
you have
become.
to follow the education system. You can't run your own program like that.
Not if you go to a country like Africa where there is no education system.
Yeah, well, that's fine. But how are you going to prove? Like, the struggle is it's hard to get that to happen, and then to get another government
Actually,
organization.
hang on. That's a really good idea. Not really. If you make a school in Africa, you work on those kids, you find better ways to do it, and then you get the next ones and you like build them up. I mean, it will take time, but if you can really focus on doing that and you get those people who have nothing to have everything, then they will get noticed.
You've got to
It'll
structure
have.
some type of schooling system from scratch.
Yeah, I know it'd be hard and everything, but it's a good idea.
People to discover that is what I'm saying. Because I'm not saying I know the answer in terms of the schooling system and that sort of thing, in terms of how it would be done, and whatever. But what I'm saying is the way it's done now isn't where it should be. I'm not like what I'm saying is the way it is now is it needs to be it needs to go somewhere else now. Like there's a better way to do it. I feel. But what that is, I don't know yet. But I feel like there's a better way to do it than what's happening right now. But I feel like back to the point of like one government, right? It just there is that many. Like I'll send you some links or whatever into these conspiracies, but everything links up too nicely is what I'm getting at, and everything is going towards that one world government. But that's not a good thing, because of all these little coincidences that are bad that are lining up, leading to this one world government.
Like what? What do
Like
you
all
mean
these
by that?
conspiracy theories of like, all right, so the terrorist attacks and the wars being started to try and get the last few countries on side in terms of owning the banks, and
Oh, okay, yeah.
it all links up in terms of the society as a whole is being dumbed down, right? While these class divides are increasing when they're trying to decrease them, right? Oh, we don't want class divides, blah blah.
Okay, hang on a sec. Theoretically, if they took control and then everyone got mad and rebelled, they would have two choices: either kill everyone else
Yeah, well,
off,
hang on. All right. So the idea is
or get taken down.
the idea is there's people smart enough that would be able to, rather than make you rebel, everyone kill each other off, turn everyone against each other. What do you think's going on now? Race is not an issue, but they're making it an issue. Why? Racism is the lowest it's been in forever, right? But all of a sudden in the news it's always mentioned, oh, this person and blah 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 and racist blah blah, and all this stuff is mentioned about race. Why is race a thing? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Well, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it all goes back to the education system and the media as well and what's being
Controls the
shown.
media.
Well, I mean, if you're getting educated and you learn about the fact that what you watch and what you see influences you, then you won't watch the
But
news.
you'll understand what you're seeing
You'll avoid it.
more.
Well, that is well. I don't really
Well, I don't watch it either.
watch it too
I
much.
get what you mean.
Unless
Like
I'm interested.
you'll be like the thing is what I'm trying to get at is that they're making certain things issues that aren't issues that can force people against each other. If you get people believing enough in their race
It's true.
and whatnot, and like you're being discriminatory against these people and blah blah blah, and people start going against each other, that's what they want. The funny thing is there's people that want a one world government, but they don't want people to be one. Right? Do you
Dude, that's like motivational shit
because
there.
they want a one world government to have
Yeah,
control
nah,
over
I
everyone, but
do.
then they want everyone to go against each other and watch it happen.
With what you said there, that's the key. You said they want a one world government, but they don't want people to be one. That's what we need. That's what I was trying to get at before. We need people to be
What I'm
one. I
saying
don't know
is,
how, but we do.
I think there needs to be. I think it's not as simple as a thing of make a one world government or split everyone into individual countries and be really individual. I think it's a matter of breaking down individual policies, individual aspects of government, and sort of analysing whether that would be best done as a one world thing or as an individual thing. Right? In my opinion, you look at something like trade, right? Something like trade, like if you broke it down into trade and you broke it down into economy and you broke it down into culture and whatever, all those different things, right? You break it down into several different, like hundreds of different categories, and you analyze whether that would be best done as, like, what level of, on the scale of,
So basically like the Australian system, how we have a state, local, and federal government, and they have different levels
something
across
like
it.
that. But
It's like certain
yeah,
things,
exactly.
yeah.
And you look at certain things, and that's the best way to do it, I think. Do you know what I'm saying? Because
That could work.
because you're not creating a one world government. You're not individualizing everyone.
And then the federal, sorry, the global government, the one that is like the UN or whatever it would only have power over certain things, so it wouldn't have
Yeah,
power
only
over
power over things
everything.
that are gonna. I think it should only have power over things that, if they change, it will benefit rather than affect negatively. Does that make sense? They shouldn't have. They
I think
shouldn't have
that's a really good
power to,
solution.
like you said, they shouldn't have power to make every single country do what they want. They shouldn't have power to, you know what I mean? Like certain things like that. Because if you had like a global organization that looked over everything, that can lead to trouble very quickly.
Yeah, there's already troubles with the World Trade
That's what I
Organization.
mean. Like, and you look at things like if we break it down, you go like, all right, trade. What's the best? If we individualize trade and don't make it a global thing, right?
Well, what do you
It is a
mean? It is a
global thing,
global
but
thing.
like
You mean
free,
trade?
like
You mean bilateral,
yeah, because you
like
have the
between
free
two
trade
countries?
agreements and all that sort of stuff. If we just got rid of all that and made
Yeah,
every
and there's
country
like bilateral.
can develop their own trade system within its own country, and they can go across each other if they want, but it's going to like cost you pay me money, I'll pay you money, sort of thing. I'll give you the goods, and
That, what do you mean? That's what it is like.
basically,
I don't understand what you're saying.
kind
Like,
of.
isn't
But
that how it is?
what's occurring now is with these free trade agreements, like if you look at the industry within Australia, like the steel industry and that sort of thing, and mining and all that sort of stuff, that industry in Australia is starting to go downhill due to the fact that countries like China can produce a certain product a lot cheaper than the rest of the world.
Yeah, they have a comparative advantage over us in that. However, we have comparative advantages over other products as well.
Well, not for a lot of things. I understand what you're saying, but like a lot of things are developed in China for a reason. Like a lot of industry is booming in China for a reason because it's just cheaper to do it over there. And
They're very self-sufficient.
why not? Why can't you do the same job? It's more expensive for a company or for a business, but why don't they make it? You have to do it with a certain amount of your business has to run within the country. Do you get what I'm trying to say there? And that grows the
Okay. Well,
economy.
I think I get what you're trying to say, but I think there's a lot of like a lot of other factors. Like with what you're saying, there's so many things here that we're not considering. Like for example, the current account deficit that's helping the economy grow
Yeah, but
despite
the thing is, but
the bad trade. Like
it's
you know
helping
what
the
I
economy,
mean?
but it's not helping the person. The economy is just a thing. The economy is just an imaginary thing. You can have a shit economy but still have a decent country.
Well, it is helping the
Well,
person
if you don't have a
because
job but
if
your
you're
economy's
growing the
increasing,
economy,
that's not helping the individual, is it?
if economic growth increases, that means that there's going to be what is it?
Yeah,
Higher
but do you realize
productivity,
high
right?
productivity comes not from humans but from machinery? Most of the time. You look at
Sometimes.
all the most efficient productions of whatever it is, there's machines doing it, not humans. Increased productivity doesn't come from humans.
Well,
Machines can operate faster.
okay, but if there's low growth, if there's a balance, if there's low growth, then yeah, you'll have more jobs, but there will also be lower living standards.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that you're then creating the problem you didn't want to have in the first place.
With what, the low growth or the high growth? Now you gotta have it in the middle. It doesn't work like
If your
that.
economy's booming, often they're not necessarily like the most successful in terms of you've got a class in every country with a high economy. You've got a high class divide, essentially, like a very noticeable class divide. So there's people living with extremely good positions, but there's also the opposite.
I think you're like wrong on a lot of stuff here. I don't know what, because like I don't know a lot about economics, but I'm pretty sure like there's a lot of things that you're like saying wrong right now. I think like I could be
The matter
wrong.
is by having all these different agreements. If let's say a government said, all right, for every business, 50% of your business has to be run within Australia, right? The other 50% of jobs or whatever can be run overseas elsewhere, but 50% of it has to be run within Australia. What's wrong with that as a business model? Your business is still going to be successful, but you're giving 50% of your jobs to Australians and 50% of the work to people within your own country. Yeah.
She asking me what's wrong with that
Yeah.
from their perspective. Um, well, how can they guarantee that the productivity of the Australians are going to be high? That they're going to be trained,
You're
that they're
saying,
going to
oh, what
be,
you're doing there is
you know
you're
what I mean?
basically. Yeah,
That's from their perspective. I get it. It's good. It's perfect. But like I'm just saying, from their perspective, that's what
yeah,
they'd be thinking. I think
alright, from their
anyway.
perspective, let's say they lose productivity from the Australians by 10%. Unfortunately, just because, like, and that's the issue that you're trying to avoid, that you say you want to so desperately avoid, right? That you don't want, by essentially, let's say you went for the business aspect and said, oh no, that's me losing money, blah blah blah. You're then putting money and power over the person.
Yeah, that's true. But then there's also the aspect of the country not wanting to do it because maybe they have higher unemployment and they want to get their jobs like all
Well,
put in. You know what I mean?
that's the idea of putting in
Put in
that
thorough.
law of 50% of your thing has to be run within a certain country, as an example.
It's the same for
I'm
every
saying if
country,
every
not just
country said
Australia.
that, I'm not sure on the numbers. You might have to increase or decrease or whatever, you know. But I'm just saying as an example, if every country did that, it's sort of like with trade, right? Let's say like let's say the government is building a certain structure, right? That takes skill to build, right? What's wrong with saying, alright, 50% of the steel has to come from an Australian manufacturer. The rest can come from wherever.
Well, there are laws like that right now.
There isn't.
There is.
There is not.
There is. I learned
No,
about this in economics.
not in the steel
And the
industry,
textbook's
mate.
wrong.
That's what steel
Okay,
industry
not
is nothing.
still. I'm just saying, like in general, there
Yeah,
are
but
laws
that's
like
why
that.
if why isn't there laws in place for things across the board in every industry, not just in.
I don't know why.
That's why we're losing. That's why we're losing jobs, left, right, and center.
Well, still back to the one world government thing. What you're saying is moving to a more globalized state in terms of trade, or in terms
No,
of trade of labor,
the other
anyway.
way, more internalized.
No, it's not. No, if you're getting 50% off from
Mate,
overseas
it's
and
more than
50% of
50%
your own
overseas now.
workers,
I'm telling you that. I reckon that's a fact.
in Australia probably, but I mean, if every country did that, there's going to be a lot more
Not
movement of labor,
necessarily.
right?
No, I'm not saying you have to
Across
bring people
every
in from
country.
another country. They can work from their own country. It's outsourcing.
It doesn't matter. It's
Yeah,
still
but
movement
there's
of
probably
labor.
what I'm saying is it's you're probably moving
Are
you're
you
probably
talking about
moving more
immigrants?
labor from someone else's country to your country by putting that law in place, which is a good thing.
Yes, it's a good thing, but back to the like main topic, it's still going towards a more globalized state, which you were saying is a bad thing in
No, it isn't. Why
itself,
is it going to a more
right?
globalized state? It's more globalized by having free
Because
trade
there's more.
agreements and
One
stuff
of
like
the
that that's
things.
already in place. By removing those, you're becoming less globalized.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, but you're saying that you want to have more labor, like more labor
No,
basically
I'm saying
traded
you want
between
more labor
countries.
within your own country, and every country should focus on that.
This is kind of hard to do without facts. Like I know Australia. Sorry, I'm sorry. I know Australia has like a lot of labor from other countries,
they're not bringing.
but I don't think every country. I don't think every country's like that, though.
But then that's the issue, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
There should be more work within Australia and less outsourcing, essentially. Because outsourcing work is giving work to other people in other countries, right? But there should be more focus on that's what I'm saying in terms of government. If every government focused on their own country, focused on getting jobs in their own country, focused on building businesses in their own country, each country would be self-sufficient, and the interaction is just fine then. Every country can interact with each other and trade goods and whatever and blah blah blah, but then.
Yeah, but there's so many benefits to globalized trade, like. I don't know, I fucking learned this shit in economics, but there is.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that.
Like, I can't listen to the
self-sufficient in their own right, then all of a sudden, you then have less. Or, like, let's say each country became sufficient in a certain area, right? Let's say China, I don't know. China was like sufficient at producing steel, and this country was sufficient at producing this, and every country was sufficient at producing certain products, and was then shipping those products worldwide, and we're getting it from every country, but their individual countries have their own specialties, essentially. What would be wrong with what?
That's basically. Okay, so you're saying, say, China specializes in steel, and Australia specializes in wool, and America specializes in farm, agriculture, whatever, and then we sell wool because that's what we specialize in, and then we get what they specialize in. Is that what you're saying?
That's to an extent now. But what I'm saying is that now you've got competing markets, which becomes an issue as a country. When we, as a country, Australia, are sufficient at producing certain products, and then another country like China comes along and is just as sufficient at producing those products but at a lower cost, that puts us in a very bad situation, is what I'm saying.
Obviously, we're going to get like crazy amounts of imports over exports. It's going to reduce growth, it's going to screw up our living standards, everything's going to go to
produce those.
Yeah, that's a big problem in Australia right now. So yeah, like there's a big argument over this. Like exactly what we're having now. There's a big argument over whether we should keep going globalized or whether we should bring it back.
That's the issue. That's why I think we should bring it back to a certain extent. Because the problem is right now is that
I think it depends on other countries.
I don't think so.
Whether we bring it back or not.
Your own country in place, that doesn't necessarily have to get rid of. That doesn't
necessarily
get rid of the free trade agreements and that sort of thing and the globalization of trade. But it just makes when people are doing things within the country, they have to use a certain amount of percentage of product from the country. Does that make sense? So like with steel, if we're using that as an example.
Yeah, those are good ones. I think there's a name for them as well.
Right? And you need steel to build it. At least 50% of that steel should have to come from Australia, let's say. What's wrong with that? That's fine. Like, what it's doing is it's improving business within Australia.
Yeah, there is things like that now, but I get what you're saying that there may need to be more of those things. There's a special name for them. I forgot what it's called. Yeah, I don't know either. We should probably end it. Yeah. It looked like it took a whole massive roundabout. I didn't even go full circle at the end. It went from one world government, politics, economics, conspiracies. Okay, well, everyone, do you think a one world government would be a good thing or a bad thing? And if you don't think the system that's happening now is a good thing, and you don't think a world government is a good thing, then what is? Also, what do you think about the education system and what we were talking about, getting it changed and changing how people think to change the world? Alright, leave a comment, like, and please subscribe.
See ya.